A really juicy conversation to have is around pronation and supination. And there's a lot of people that say pronation is something that is necessary for the body as well as supination. I'm going to give you my take on this whole topic. Number one, first and foremost, I believe that all movement is a spiral. What that means is that there's nothing that's linear, and even if we try to go linear, at some point it's going to either spiral in or it's going to spiral out. All movement is this way. No matter how much you want to make it on a straight line, doesn't actually happen. If you continue the movement, at some point it will have some type of rotation, torquing, or spiraling effect to it. So that being said, the words supination, which describe this motion, supination, and pronation at the hand level, or the foot, supination, and then pronation. From standing, supination, pronation, supin, pronation. Those are linear-based movement, meaning they're on just a one singular axis. So those are a linear movement. So because it's a linear movement, I don't think supination and pronation are actually things that actively describe what's happening at the foot and ankle level. So I want to break this down just a little bit so that we can have a deeper conversation, ultimately to help all of us, human race, understand what in the darn heck is going on with the human body and how it actually moves. Because if we understand how it moves and what's going on with it, maybe we can train better and we can be better at seeing different faults that we have in our own physical structure in our body. So one of the things that with pronation that people say is that pronation is necessary. Already I don't believe in pronation, but one of the things about pronation that is 100% true is if you think it's real and you actively pronate, or what some people call like pressing down to the inside, if you create this shape with your foot, if you're actively like collapsing and putting that shape into the ground, what you are doing is actively activating this medial arch, the inside calf, VMO, and this type of line where the adductor is. So for some things, like let's say I'm surfing or I'm fighting, I want that last little inside piece maybe to grab onto for whatever reason, or you're making a cut, you decide to do that. One of the limiting factors of having your foot stuck in this position is that it also will affect change up the chain into the inside part of your hip, into how you're holding tension throughout the entire line. And that's what's really important, is that it's not just happening at the foot, but it's also happening at the leg, at the upper hip, all the way into everything that's organized on top of this. So if we were to take something like a movement like a hip hinge or a single leg squat, if I am stuck in pronation, it's going to limit the amount of squatting that I can have in pulling my hip back. I'm going to stop about right there. If I bias myself to more the outside, then when I pull my hip back, I have a lot more room and a lot more space. Let me show you that from the back, from the side view. There's an infinite amount of space. And the reason for that is because this is how the body actually collapses itself like a Russian doll and compresses itself safely, is that the loading leg, or the leg that's in front, corkscrews and opens in that direction. Some people would say that's biasing to supination. I don't really necessarily believe that. Supination is when that foot's going to come off the ground, but what we're doing when we converge our body, we're not coming down linear. There is no linear. What we're doing is we're coming down, we're opening. We're creating this little opening action that happens with the lower leg bones, and you'll see the ankle just start to roll, and then my foot create this almost wave-like shape. My heel can be in the ground, or it can be slightly hovered, and you'll see it just peek through just ever so slightly as I come down to the ground. So my ankle has this ability, just like my arm does, to kind of torque open and torque close, torque open and torque close. And it's a necessary ability for us to access the lateral and the backside parts of our legs and our body. So if you are somebody who is stuck in pronation, or what I like to call a collapsing of the arch, a collapsing of the foot arch, then you're going to have a difficulty time getting back here, and you're going to be stuck in this world. Sometimes that can result in really tight adductors, really tight hip flexors, and it's going to be hard to get back there. It's necessary for us to get back there, and one of the movements that shows us this is the dragonfly squat. That if I'm in pronation and I try and dragonfly squat, I'm going to get stuck. I'm stuck. I have to let the whole thing roll open. As it rolls open, I get more access to the backside. I can then open and reach my arm and counterbalance myself, and then I can come to the very bottom of our dragon squat, and then I'll come out of it. If at any time I start to fall and collapse, it makes it really hard for me to condense my body without pulling back into our convergence pattern. So when we're talking about pronation, some people say that it's good, some people say not so good. I say the whole idea about pronation isn't that helpful. We want to look at global movements like the dragonfly squat, that if I opened up myself into a dragonfly squat, what foot shape and what movement, what torquing action allows me to go all the way down and then come back up. Pistol squats are a little bit different because we can get stuck in the pistol squat world. This is why I can do a pistol squat with my knee coming to the inside, but a dragonfly squat, I have to do something different. When we're talking about balancing, even just running, if I'm stuck on the ground, collapsed on the inside, my balance is actually going to be leaning my leg forward and my foot back. Let me show you that from this side. Boom. This is going to be my balance. If I'm on the outside, my balance is going to be my foot back and my arms forward. And look at how much more balance I have in this system as compared to this system. Foot in the ground, inside part of my leg. I only have so much as my hip can come forward. And we have way less range of hip extension than we do with that flexion or the bending of the hip hinge. I almost have like an infinite more in this range. So when we're talking about balance, we need the backside. And in order to get the backside, we have to do this rotary opening action at the foot and ankle level. So when I put my foot in the ground, the last thing I want to do is get stuck here, especially if I need balance, because then I'm going to be in some dangerous places. So pronation, supination, are they real? This is the question to ask yourself. Is there linear movement where it just goes like this or like that? How do we account for this rotary action where my ankle is fixed and yet the bones and all the musculature, connective tissue are wrapping either outside or inside? And does my understanding of pronation allow me for greater range of movement or less range of movement? Where do I have greater range of movement in my pronation, and where do I have greater range of movement in my outside or spiraling open kind of supination type of thing? These are things that we should all understand deeply if we're going to have a conversation around pronation, supination, and what is the operation, the function of the human foot and ankle as we move through time and space. This is Coach Bam. Thanks so much for joining me on today's talk. You.